Hello. How are you doing today? How are you doing right now? Let's just check in. Sometimes that breath, just that slow down, right? That, oh, how am I feeling? Okay. We're so used to going a million miles a minute. This is what our culture has primed us to do. Keep that stress going, keep the work going, keep the parenting going, keep the scheduling going. It's just so much, right? And that can leave us in a state where we just feel uneven, right? Overwhelmed, run down. And it's often because we do not have a self-care plan. We don't have a plan for how we care for ourselves. And so that's what we'll be talking through today. We'll be talking through what are some ideas that we can put into our day so that we do feel like we have that breath of not just that breath of fresh air for a moment, but we move from that place of breath. We move from that place of peace, from that spaciousness in between our thoughts, instead of feeling cramped with not only our expectations, but expectations that we unconsciously, subconsciously, or consciously are following from other people that they have set for us, right? So self-care plan tip number 1, boundaries. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Think back, about how long ago was it that you first understood the concept of boundaries? I believe I was about 24, 25. I was really, stumbling upon lots of information about setting boundaries. Don't let people take up your space. Take care of your energy. Just information like that. But I didn't really understand the concept until I started putting it into practice. There was a lot of speed bumps with that. Meaning, really, I think I was setting boundaries at a very high speed, and I was hitting lots of bumps, right? I would tell somebody, my therapist called it at the time, setting boundaries with a baseball bat is what you're doing, Katt. Somebody would ask me to babysit or something simple, and I'd be like, no, I cannot, and I don't want to also. And that was just kind of, that was kind of harsh. And there are ways to, say like, hey, no, simply no, or just as simply as like, I just don't have the bandwidth. And we can set boundaries in a compassionate way where others can hear our needs and not just see our behaviors. Because remembering that every behavior that seems misaligned or just kind of like, ooh, what do they got going on over there? A lot of the times it's unmet needs. We feel overwhelmed and we have a need and we don't know how to meet it. And so we want to clear some space, clear some responsibilities so that we can get in touch with what all of the parts of us need. Right. And so boundaries simply are a way for you to stay separate from people, from places and things, so that you can be your own separate entity. It's also a way for you to stay in connection with these people, places, and things. Because if you are overwhelmed by these people, places, and things, right, you don't want to go anymore. It has already, I say this from like a spectrum. Everything's a spectrum, right? It's this line. And this line has two extremes, right? two extremes. And we're trying to stay in that really pretty gap there, right? That gap right here is where connection can happen. There's space enough for us to kind of go back and forth. But as soon as those lines merge, it's really easy to tip from one extreme to another, right? If I was always babysitting, then it made it really easy for me to be, the first call every single time. And it made it also really easy to not want to babysit as much anymore because I felt like I was being taken advantage of. But really, it was me. It was my boundaries. I was not creating that spaciousness. I was not pulling out. And as soon as you are aware, right, that's the first step in changing any pattern that we are accustomed to, is being aware. I was aware I was not wanting to babysit as much as I, used to anymore. And that was my first sign. I was like, oh, I need a boundary here. Because I usually love taking care of kids, right? That is like my jam. But it got to a point where I wasn't enjoying it, and that was where it was key for me to go, oh, okay. And go to that person, right? This is somebody that you hopefully have some trust built up with, meaning that if you tell them something that you have going on with you, they're not going to respond with, well, that sucks. Sucks for you. I don't really know what else to say. Whatever their response is usually compassionate, usually kind of like, oh crap, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. What can I do? Or it's the sense of like, oh, I had no idea. Okay. Well, tell me where to go from here. You can have all kinds of responses, none of which should be taken personally. When we're setting boundaries, somebody is going to respond to that boundary. It may hurt them, right? They may perceive that as you pushing them away, right? Or throwing it away, right? They may perceive it as, again, that's that extreme. And so once we are aware, it is important for us next in setting boundaries is to think about how we want to set that boundary. Do we want to set it with a baseball bat and say, I don't want to babysit anymore? No more. Or do I want to set a boundary compassionately, right? Softly, with a line in the sand. It's still sand, still nice to walk on. Yeah. So I set that boundary again, kindly and compassionately, and was just honest, right? It was like, I feel my time just kind of slipping away from my hands, and it's because I'm not saying no as often as I need to say no. What would help me a lot is if you would ask me and not assume that I could, meaning like, hey, we've already made these plans and you're our one and only shot at a babysitter, and can you scooch your plans around or do whatever you can to make it happen? And that's what was happening, right? And so when I brought this problem up, I was like, this is what I need. I need to not be the one and only babysitter, but also before you create plans, find that babysitter. Make sure that is in place. And that way, so you seem to be upset when you don't have that babysitter because you've already made the plans. And so maybe just slow down and say, as soon as I have that babysitter, I will get back with you on securing those plans. And so that way everybody's happy. It's a win-win. So again, setting boundaries is a deeply integral part of having a self-care plan. Deep. It is so vital that we get into a relationship with when we need a boundary. How to notice when we need a boundary. And a lot of the times it's when we are we feel completely dysregulated by the thought of meeting that other person's expectation, right? And so right now we're talking about boundaries with people, right? That's what that is the most difficult one usually for people. But it usually is because it is very difficult to meet our own boundaries, right? So we will draw a line in the sand with ourselves. And this is what we can call small promises. Keeping small promises is meeting your boundaries where you're at. And so let's think of one. Let's mix in the forgotten fundamentals. So food, sleep, movement. Those are the three fundamentals that are often forgotten, right? We're not mindful of them. Yes, we're moving every day. Yes, we're sleeping every day. Yes, we're eating every day. But are we doing it mindfully? And boundaries can really be a key point here too. Can I keep this small promise to myself that when I wake up in the morning, I will get up on the third snooze instead of the fourth snooze? Can I keep this small promise to myself that I will drink a cup of water upon waking up and brush my teeth, right? So we are just keeping small promises to ourselves. And the more we do that, the more we keep those small promises, it creates this beautiful foundation of self-trust. You can trust yourself to make decisions. You can trust yourself to set boundaries with people, places, and things. You can trust yourself with just about everything, just from the basics, just from doing and meeting the basics. So self-care is a lot about boundaries, and it's a lot about these forgotten fundamentals, being mindful of these fundamentals. And so boundaries with yourself looks like meeting those small promises. Okay, so let's take a stretch. If everybody will take your arms up and breathe in with me. Come on, inhale. Exhale, go ahead and take your hands out like this and exhale. Inhale, bring your arms up again. Interlace your fingers, push them away, palm forward, exhale. All right, go ahead and roll your shoulders back, inhale. Exhale, we're gonna go into some neck rolls. So go ahead and start making a circle with your nose. And so we'll go one way, a few more times. If this feels crunchy for your neck, please slow it down. Okay, and the other way. Just small, gentle neck rolls, making a circle with the nose. Deep breaths. Last one. And back to center. Okay. Are you noticing you're already feeling just a little bit more alert? Just a little bit more relaxed? Yeah. About every 10 to 15 minutes, our body needs a reset. Maybe even more. The more resets we need, the more that is a clue for us to know that we've got some trauma that is being stored in the body, that is looking for its release. Right? So Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, if you've read his book, it's The Body Keeps Score. He goes through the science. Just, so good, so good. He goes through the science of how we store trauma in our body. And it's through our emotional memories, right? You ever heard that phrase like, oh, I don't remember what they said, but I remember how I felt around that person. And I remember how they made me feel. Yeah, it's two things. That is a combination of their personality and your personality at work. And so, again, when we get more and more in tune with when we need that reset, then we are going to be very capable of trusting ourselves and our decisions and the processes of the universe, the processes of how this is all going for us in this world. Take that breath. Inhale. Take your neck to the side. Inhale. Exhale to center. The other side. Inhale. Exhale to the side. Find that stretch. Exhale to center. Good. That movement, that breath, that is what is moving that trauma out of your body. That is what is moving those emotional memories and the inflammation. That's what's moving. That's what we are letting go, right? We're dissolving information that doesn't need to be there anymore. It served its purpose, it served its lesson. And the more aware you become, the more you know you have released that trauma. You have released and dissolved it. It's not just lying dormant. The more aware you are, the more you are clued in that you've dissolved trauma. You've done it. You did it. A lot of us are asking those same questions of like, how do I know it's actually dissolved? How do I know it's actually gone, the trauma? Is it just going to come back and just whoop me upside the head? And that's a difficult question to answer, right? There's no black and white yes or no. A lot of it is just the answer comes from within, right? You will get that answer. You will know the more you get to know your knowing. Yeah. Okay, so let's go through movement first. The forgotten fundamentals: food, sleep, movement. We will start with movement. How often do we just sigh? That is movement. How often are we scolding our children or people around us for sighing when we're in a difficult communication pattern, when we're in a difficult, conversation? Happens a lot. I used to do that, right? I used to have a sibling or something, somebody next to me that's going, and we always go, what's wrong, right? Because they're showing us at that point that they're dysregulated. And that's okay. We can check in, but maybe we can ask do you need something? You just took a deeper breath. Are you needing something? Do you have that to give? Right? Do I have that to give? This is all really helpful information. So sighing is not something to be embarrassed about. Having a need is not something to be embarrassed about or to feel guilty about. It's a beautiful thing that we're able to feel those emotions. My God, can you imagine where we'd be as humankind if we weren't able to feel some shame or some guilt? We need those emotions. Do we need them to show up when we have a need? Where did we learn that? Where did we learn that we had to feel like, oh God, I just sighed and now everybody's asking me what's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with me. Is there? Is there something wrong with me? No. There is nothing wrong with you because you're experiencing some dysregulation. No. And you're likely responding to many factors that don't even consciously come to mind, right? Do you feel safe and protected by your laws in your country or in your state? And you could be sighing about that, right? Do you feel comfortable and emotionally relaxed and at ease with the people that you live with, you could be sighing about that. There's lots of things and people and places that we can be reactive to. So sighing and deep breaths are a way for us to get, again, in tune with releasing information that's being held there. So again, we can invite in more awareness, which leads to knowing yourself better, right? Trusting yourself better. It all gets back to that place. Knowing who I am, having no idea really where I'm going, but trusting the ride because I'm trusting myself. I'm trusting my body, and I'm trusting its instructions. So if I immediately have a sigh and I don't know where it's coming from, I trust my body that it does know. It does know. Sigh, 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 as often as you can. That is a big thing we can do for movement. I guess it's a small thing, right? It's teeny tiny. Just taking a deeper breath. But what it's doing is oh gosh, it does so much. Like literally just taking a deep breath. But the science of it is that it is giving us more oxygen. And when our brain and our organs and our blood has more oxygen, right, more access to oxygen, we can evolve. When we are in traumatized states, our breathing becomes shallow because we need to survive. We need to be quiet. We can't wake the bear, right? There's no bear. So we can take big, breathy, loud breaths and sighs to give us more of those endorphins, to give us more access to dopamine, serotonin, right? We want to have access to those neurotransmitters. We want our hormones and our hormonal glands to be running efficiently. So breath is a huge, huge vital part. Okay, so boundaries, food, sleep, movement, that's what we're talking about today. That's what we're getting into. So that way we have access to us again and not letting everyone, everything, every place have access to us. We can have access. So that's breath. Very, very important. How often can we just get into a relationship with breath throughout our entire day? So when you're waking up in the morning, right, get that stretch in. Get that stretch. Get that breath. Let's take one all together. Inhale, breathe in, and stretch. Yawn. Really get your fingers stretched out wide. Take up space. Okay. Feel into your breath. Feel into your body. Feel what sensations are happening. Okay, good. So we know a lot more about breath. And we know a little bit more about stretching. Stretching can be very powerful, right? It moves the blood, right? It moves it around in places where we need it that it's not getting to so efficiently, especially if we're sedentary folks. A lot of people are sitting down throughout the day, yeah, like me, right? You have to put in. We have to put in a little extra effort. We got to get up out of our chairs, right? And lift our legs and kind of go for a march, right? And we got to take our arms up wide. We got to actually put in that movement. We get to. It's a gift. You know, we don't have to work outside and long, blistering hot days. So instead, we get to be aware. We get to be mindful. we also get to use tools that remind us to do these things. So the body is your number one tool. But if you're struggling to be with that body, to be in relationship with what it's telling you, then we want to begin with technology. Can we set a timer, right? For every 30 minutes, every hour that says stretch and get a drink of water, right? Or stretch, get a drink of water, or spend, 3 minutes just completely silent, close the eyes down and just take in the moment. That is what slows us down enough so that we can be here for life, right? Instead of we're being yanked by life, right? We're just like, holding on. Seriously, that is what it feels like sometimes. Or we're yanking life with us. Instead of this yank and pull effect, we can just float. We can just really be at ease. It's not, a lot of us aren't used to that. Growing up in chaotic childhoods, that can be really dysregulating for some of us, to just be in bliss, to just be at peace. But it's still worthwhile. That muscle is still worthwhile training. Some discomfort is necessary. We use it, we use the analogy, right? Like you're building a muscle. This is a muscle group. Releasing trauma and being at ease and at peace with yourself is a muscle group. And it will be sore, right? It will hurt. It will feel uncomfortable to stretch. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop. So movement throughout your entire day is vital for everything inside the body to be functioning at an ideal rate, at an ideal pace. So we're not overrun and we're not underrun. We're right here in the middle. We're right here feeling balanced and in harmony. Yeah. Okay. So let's recap. Boundaries are small promises that we keep to ourselves, and that makes it easier to make these boundaries, to create boundaries with people, places, and things that we are in relationship with and that we care about. Now, if you don't care about them, this is a whole nother thing. We're talking about, I like this, right? I like babysitting. I like my job. I actually do like it. I enjoy it. I enjoy this relationship. It's just that I don't enjoy when I can't say no and I feel like saying no. I don't enjoy that feeling. And that's what we're getting used to. We're getting used to that bit of discomfort. That is not shame or guilt. It's just simply that. It's just discomfort. Maybe setting boundaries or saying no when we were a kid, that was met with a strong reaction from an adult. So we're looking not to have that experience again, right? Have faith in that person or that place or that thing, that I can set this boundary. I can set this boundary with them and they will not leave me. They will not hurt me. I can say, hey, I am actually not up to going to dinner tonight. I know I agreed, but I am really feeling how I'm feeling. And I just need a day. I just need some alone time. All right. Boundaries also can be easier when you remember these 4 things. We have 4 emotional needs. Dan Siegel, you can look him up, Dan Siegel. He wrote, I can't remember the name of the book right now, but 4 emotional needs. Attention. We need to pay attention to our emotions. Mindfulness. We need affection. We need to feel like, we're special. We do. We need appreciation. Again, we need to feel like, somebody's grateful that we're around, right? I am grateful that I'm around. And alone time, for spending lots of our energy with others. You are looking at what's called enmeshment. You could be looking at just not feeling your separateness anymore, feeling like you and this person are basically the same person, And that separateness is beautiful because you can work together at that point. If you're this, you're one. You can't work together. You're wherever this goes, wherever you go, Separateness, you're able to really dance and create something long-lasting. So, 4 emotional needs: attention, affection, appreciation, alone time. So when you are setting boundaries, right, there's usually one of those 4 that's getting kicked, right? So even paying attention to that, if you're feeling that way with yourself, you don't really know why, pay attention, right? First things first, pay attention. Well, in what area of my life am I not meeting my own needs? Let's start first with those fundamentals, because those fundamentals are what creates that tower of feeling alive and having great esteem and not being an egotistical maniac either. It's awesome. So, build boundaries with people, places, and things. Okay? We can use that model to help you out. And also keep those small promises to yourself. And make them teeny, teeny, tiny. Teeny, 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 tiny. They don't need to be this big, grand, like, I'm gonna hit the gym 5 days a week. Like, I am gonna go to a gym, right, once a month. Or I'm going to go to the gym once a week, whatever it is. I'm going to step foot in a gym and then leave. Like, it's okay. We're just getting our body used to keeping small promises. So make them itty, itty, bitty, especially if you're really having a hard time with keeping small promises to yourself. All right, a lot of promises of yours were broken, so you haven't learned how to keep those promises to yourself. Start small, very, 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 very small. Right. Okay. Movement, breath, and stretching. It's really all we're looking for. Breath and stretching, so that we're moving the blood around, we're oxygenating the blood, and we're getting the inflammation and the fascia to move, right? To literally stretch around the muscles and around the bones. We do not want, right? We do not want to carry around unnecessary stress. It primes us for more stress. And so if you're the weird person always, stretching at the office and you're just breathing and doing rainbows, well, so freaking be it, because I am discharging my trauma. Let's take an inhale, everybody. Arms up, breathe in. Yeah, and come around for a hug. Got something caught in my throat almost. Inhale. And release. A lot of stress we hold in our shoulders. So neck rolls can be really important. Chest openers. Looking at some stretches online can be very beneficial. Very beneficial. Just light stretches, right? Nothing crazy. Nothing big. Humming. Movement. Humming and singing. Using our vocal cords is so important. And so is laughing. So we want to be laughing. We want to invite in information, people, places, and things where we can laugh, we can sing, we can speak authentically, expressively, right? We want to hum. Humming is a very powerful tool for the vagus nerve. Again, where that vagus nerve is, it stems from your brain stem here, over here closer to your right ear. And it stretches and wanders all the way down your spinal cord and ends around your pelvis area. So when you are speaking, right, authentically, which means you're speaking from a place of empowerment, not from a place of like, oh, I gotta beat this person, right? You're not wearing this mask. You're just being you. That can be it's very empowering in and of itself, right? Empowerment meets empowerment. So humming and speaking and singing are very helpful. And so let's go ahead and do a hum. We're gonna do one chant of Om, and we're just gonna practice with what this feels like, what we feel reverberating in our bodies. Okay, here we go. So we're going to inhale here, and Okay, for the folks who didn't join me, we're going to do it one more time. You get your second chance. You get your second. Aren't you so excited? Aren't you so ready? Aren't you pumped? Okay, I'll stop. Let's do this chant one more time. Here we go. Inhale. How do you feel? I feel more grounded. I feel more spacious. I feel more at ease. I feel a little silly. I feel present. I feel present. That's what we're looking for, right? The gift of presence. So humming can be very powerful for creating presence. Think of it as an interrupter. We've had these thoughts, maybe even these spirals. We can get into a spiral. We just can't even stop thinking about the same thing over and over and over and over. It can be an interrupter. Very powerful tool. So movement is not just HIIT and cardio and kickboxing. It really is. It's more simple than that. Yeah. From a therapeutic perspective, movement is much more simple. It's singing, it's humming, it's speaking, it's stretching, it's breathing. So that's movement. Now let's discuss food. Food is so powerful in our culture, right? Food is beautiful, food is nourishing, food can be very fun. Food has got lots and lots of information in it. And when we're looking at food, we're not really, from the therapeutic perspective, we're not looking at dieting, right? We're not looking for you that's just not what we're up to. That's not our perspective as like a social work community. We don't say like, oh, dieting's really good for you, right? Having a relationship with food where you feel trusted, right? You feel relaxed, you feel at peace, you feel like food is honoring you, then you're good. You're at peace with food. If that is not your case, if you feel like food is something that you have animosity towards, you have guilt towards, you have shame towards, right? A lot of that is from our childhood, of course, right? We're always talking about it. It's like, okay, and where did you experience that in your childhood? Because it stems right back to that place which tells us we've got trauma stuck in the body, right? And we know movement and keeping our small promises are what's going to help release that trauma day by day, week by week, year by year. That's what's going to help that. And so keeping small promises around food. And so maybe for some, right, we're looking at that spectrum, or here it is. Here's the spectrum. We're looking for that spaciousness, that give, right? This is the playfulness area right there, that gap. Now, if you have a fused line, you have a fused spectrum with food, it means that either you could be on this end, whether it means like I can't eat, I don't want to eat, this is the only place where I have some control, right? Everything else is out of control. I do have control on what I'll eat and what I won't, right? We're looking for you to get some more information, right? Get some more pleasure, get some more relaxation in your body and your mind and everywhere else, so that we can create some spaciousness for food and the pleasure from food can come back in. If you're on this other spectrum where it's, food is, again, the only thing maybe I can control, so I eat lots of it. So we have one spectrum where we don't eat enough of it. We have one spectrum where we eat lots of it. And we're looking for that comfort, that safety, and that security of like, well, at least I can trust myself, to get this comfort need met, from food. And so again, same thing, we're looking for that spaciousness, keeping teeny tiny promises to yourself. So on this spectrum, it may look like keeping a small promise to yourself of like, I will, eat a banana tomorrow for breakfast. And that means if you ate, half a banana, you did it. You ate that banana, right? You wouldn't just be like, oh, garbage. I ate, only half the banana. I didn't keep a promise to myself. I suck, right? It's like, no, you did, right? You looked at the banana, you peeled that banana, you took a bite of that banana, you kept your promise. Do it again tomorrow. The other spectrum, the other side, it's I will, not eat a meal, instead have tea or have water or have, whatever you want to give yourself when you're feeling like that I got to get that comfort need met, especially it's an oral fixation usually. So you want to be looking at how you can get that need met, right? So maybe it's a warm drink, maybe it's something else completely, right? Maybe it's painting at nighttime, maybe it's doing some of these, light breathing stretches. Maybe it's going for, a nightly walk if that feels comfortable and safe to you. Putting in these new ideas, these new activities. And so a lot of it is just building a promise, and a very easy to reach promise, and keeping it to yourself as best as you can. And if you break your promise, not berating yourself, right? Not giving yourself more trauma by not meeting that small promise. You would just be like, well, I didn't meet that small promise in this moment. You won't say, oh, well, I didn't meet this small promise. Today was a sucker, totally sucked. Nope. We're just like, okay, I didn't meet this small promise for myself in this moment. I'll try again. And I'll try again. And I'll try again. And I'll try again. Because I care about myself. I care deeply about this person. And if I don't, well, then I want to. I want to care deeply for this person. I have a strong desire. And that's what we're looking for too, right? A desire, a want. We know it's a need, but turning that need into a want, into a desire. You want to take care of this person. You want to be on their team. Hell yeah. Okay. So that is food. Creating a relationship with food is very important, very beautiful. It can be very pleasurable too. It can also be scary for a lot of us. And so if food seems like a topic, movement seems like a topic, right? Sleep seems like a topic that is just, I have no idea. I don't even know how to breach that conversation. I don't even know how to approach it. Bring that into the therapy room. Whether you're seeing a new therapist, whether you're seeing, me, bring that into the therapy room. We're ready to talk about it. I'm ready to talk about it whenever you're ready to talk about it. Okay. Sleep. Oh, sleep. Sleep. What clogs up our sleep? Who wants to guess what clogs up our sleep? All right. Patterns. Unhealthy, unnecessary patterns. Thought cycling. That's a lot of what gets in our way of falling asleep, right? High cortisol levels is what a lot of the times keeps us from staying asleep and then from going back to sleep. Again, high cortisol levels and possibly thought cycling. And so just can't get to sleep, can't get the mind to shut off, body feels restless. Yeah. Your body may have been neglected throughout the day, right? We didn't take those moments to just, go outside and look at the sky and just breathe. Just let the sun just charge our energy, charge our bodies. And so it just kind of, we get in bed and we think we've had this big long day full of we've exhausted ourselves. But we probably exhausted ourselves mentally. We didn't let our body actually catch up to exhaust itself as well. And so movement, getting adequate nutrients in the body throughout the day builds up to a wonderful, wonderful rest. So I often suggest practices like Yoga Nidra. That is Nidra, Yoga Nidra. And you can just look this up on YouTube, right? There are practitioners that are, just speaking so eloquently, so beautifully, so relaxfully. That's not a word. But they're great. There's so many people out here who just want to help us feel more relaxed and feel more in tune. So that's a beautiful resource if you're ready to go to bed, but your mind still feels like it's kind of running a lot. We want to go ahead and interrupt. We'd like to interrupt that cycle. We don't want that spiral to continue downward. We'd like to interrupt that spiral right where it's at and reverse it. So that way we can go to sleep and feel at rest, feel totally at peace. The last thoughts maybe we have is, man, I did my best today. I had some things that got in the way, but man, I did my best. And I'm so glad that I took those extra few minutes just to relax, right? Stretch in your bed, right? Clean your face off. All these little things build up to a beautiful relationship with ourselves. A relationship we really respect. We're very much like, oh yeah, that's a respectful relationship. Yeah, very much so. So thinking back, what will this look like for you? What will your self-care plan, your routine look like? This is your homework. So the homework assignment is, go ahead and get your pen and paper out. Your homework assignment is to look at where you need boundaries in your life, people, places, and things. Where do you need to meet small promises? Begin to include making those small promises, attempts at small promises. Remember, we're not going to get down on ourselves. We're not going to hurt our own feelings for not meeting small promises. We will have a learner, a growth mindset and say, hey, I like the initiative you took. I like the effort that I made. I appreciate that I was able to give in that effort and say, well, I am going to try something new today. No, I didn't make it, 5 rounds, but I made it 2. That was awesome, right? We're looking for that. So what small promises can you make in the areas of food, sleep, and movement? And maybe it's just affirming yourself. I have more control over my life than I allow myself to believe. I have more options to choose from to create a new reality for myself than I allow myself to believe. Right? We're done limiting ourselves. We're done. We've been limited over and over and over in our childhoods. A lot of us have. And we're done. Okay? We're done with that. We're unlearning that pattern. It wasn't useful. It wasn't helpful. It was helpful for them to survive in the moment. It was not helpful for us to sustain a lifetime of health and emotional regulation. And that's what we're wanting. Emotional regulation, not just happiness, right? But the ability to regulate ourselves, the ability to regulate our emotions when they come up. The ability to be aware of them and peek at what they're hinting at, right? They never just usually tell us like, I'm angry about this. It's usually like, oh, a feeling's here. Wonderful. What is that all about? So that's your homework assignment. Small promises in what areas of your life, and where can you begin to include making these small promises to your relationship with food, to sleep, and with movement. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for investing an hour of your precious time and energy to look at how you can better care for yourself. It was a wise move. Wise move. All right. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.